And we are now joined by a very special guest, a man who was all everything at the University of Georgia, college football analyst for ESPN, and a crucial part of the college game day desk, David Pollack. David, how we doing, man?
Doing wonderful. How you doing, brother?
Doing phenomenal. I appreciate you making some time. Got a hard-hitting question for you off the top. I've heard rumblings that you're known to play some pickup basketball before college game day. If there were to be a situation where it's you and the desk out on the court, is there anybody that can check you on that desk? Let's be real right now.
Absolutely not. It's not close. I'll tell you what, McAfee's not bad, but he won't play. He's more of a shooter. He wants to shoot and stay at range. But now we used to play some pickup everywhere we went and had to get the guys together. But we do less of that now. But now there's Maria Taylor, by the way, would have been the closest back in the day. Maria was good.
Volleyball, right?
She played volleyball and basketball at Georgia. And she was she's super athletic and she could move her feet and she was big and she was physical. She would pound you in a heartbeat. I'm like, bro, chill out, dog. Goodness gracious. Because you can't hit a woman back and be physical with her. Like, now, I mean, you can't do that. I'll check anybody, but I'm not gonna check Maria and get in trouble for that. But now we've definitely played pickup over the years at different schools with different managers, different groups, and it's been fun.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, we'll get into the football side of things. Obviously, you haven't been at the University of Georgia, back-to-back national champs. If the season started today, are you taking Georgia to win the national title, or are you taking the field?
I'll take the field. If you ever give me that question, there's very few times that I'm going to say, a singular team. I think this year's championship will be different. It will be harder for Georgia, and I say that because last year when Kirby started team meetings, he could go, okay, Jordan Davis and 14 other guys who got drafted are in the NFL. You guys sit in the seats. Y'all didn't win a national title. This is a new team. Now he's going to go, well, Stetson's not here and Jalen's not here, but, most everybody else is back. And so I think it's a different rebuild. I think that the way they've recruited has been stupid. And they're going to be right there in the mix, and I would be surprised if they're not in the playoffs. But every team's different. I think Carson Beck has a chance to be really special. He's a guy that has sat at the University of Georgia for 3 years and waited his time, and I think there's something to that. He'll be experienced. He'll have seen things. He'll know things. He'll know how to prepare. He'll know how to lead. I think he's big. He's strong. He's accurate. So I think he fills in for Stetson well. Todd Monken leaves and goes to the NFL now. Bobo's calling plays. There's always a little bit of a transition and different things that go on, but Bowers is still there, and McConkey's still there, and an offensive line that will be really, really good. But there'll be new pieces. It won't be as easy a job to say, hey, let's just go compete and let's just act like that we didn't do it again 2 years in a row.
And do you believe it's Carson Beck's job? Or Brock Vandergrift's in the room, Gunnar Stockton's in the room. Do you think it's 15's job to lose?
I think it's his job to lose 100%. But I'll say this: I think Gunner's special. I think when I go watch him and I watch him compete, he looks like Stetson. He's a smaller in stature, great athlete, got a great arm, can make off-platform throws, can make exciting plays. I think it's between those two guys. I think Beck will be the starter, and I think he'll prove why he's really, really, really good. But I think you'll have an elite backup in Gunner that could also be the guy, and I think will be the guy in the future.
Like you said, just ridiculous the level they've recruited at the quarterback position, no exception. So Georgia's obviously, top of the pyramid when you look at the SEC. Outside of that number one spot, who do you see in the 2 and 3 spot in the Southeastern Conference?
Well, Alabama's always going to be there, and you think about last year. Listen, I was as critical as anybody on Alabama, and they deserved it because they didn't deserve to be in the playoff discussion. But man, their schedule was murderous. I mean, they had to go to Tennessee, even Ole Miss, LSU. Like they played a lot of tough games. They had a really tough schedules, and they lost some close ones. They're going to be rebuilding too, but they just put together a historic class. Nick Saban's replacing OC and DC, which there's a lot going on with that with this team. So I think Alabama's that next team. I think LSU's right there in the mix. So many guys returning, another year with Brian Kelly. They recruited a bunch of high school kids at a high level. They kept a bunch of their guys to stay from last year, which is good. They could have gone to the NFL. So I think the top three this year are Georgia, Alabama, and LSU.
So where do you see Tennessee in the mix right now? Obviously, Hendon Hooker's gone, Jalen Hyatt's gone, Joe Milton taking over the reins. Where does Tennessee fit in that picture?
I don't know, man. I don't know where they are. I don't think they can build their program like they did last year and continue to do that. And I say that I don't think you can always be a transfer destination, and that's how you build your team. Hendon Hooker was unbelievable, too. I don't think people gave him enough credit. Their best lineman, their right tackle, Wright, was unbelievable. He'll be a top 20 draft pick in the draft, and people are going like, "What? We never talked about that guy." He dominated everybody every week. He was so good. You lose that. Can you build the defense? I think they'll be really good on offense because that's what Josh Heupel's good at. That's what he's going to build. But can they build a credible defense? Because losing guys on that side too. I think Tennessee. This is a prove-it year for Tennessee. Like, are you going to be that next team in the SEC East behind Georgia? Are you going to be can you consistently be a team that challenges, or are you a flash in the pan excitement and then you drop back down? But I think there's going to be moments of excitement, but I wonder if Tennessee can recruit at a high enough level to go to beat Alabama, to beat Georgia, to beat those teams, consistently. And then again, in turn, not slip up to South Carolina, late in the season. And when you saw your defense really, really struggle.
And you mentioned LSU in that top three conversation. Last year, I believe it was 5 games decided by one score, and they ended up coming out 4-1. What's your take on LSU as it pertains to taking that next step in year 2 with all the pressure around them with Brian Kelly?
Well, and what we've seen with those numbers, right, is they don't usually hold serve. They don't. Those numbers don't consistently build upon themselves. There's a regress to the means. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't just always win close games every year. I think it's a back and forth stat. So, but here's the thing: Jaden Daniels is back, so you got your trigger man back. You've seen him grow as a passer last year. You could see the athletic ability, the scrambling ability. Brian Kelly's still there. Plenty of weapons around him. And again, bringing in more weapons. Harold Perkins Jr., if you didn't watch him last year, you're missing out because that mother sucker is bad to the bone. I mean, he is bad. He can rush quarterbacks and put pressure on you. And so that's why I think you buy into LSU. That's why you look at the future. And listen, let's be honest. Not a lot of people think a lot about Ed Orgeron. Not a lot of people think a lot about Les Miles. Both those guys won national championships. So this is a fertile recruiting ground. This is an elite tradition, an elite fan base, an elite stadium atmosphere. Like LSU doesn't stay down for long. That's not going to be an LSU. LSU doesn't do that.
And one of the teams that LSU beat last year that's kind of, I think, going under the radar right now, we talked about a little bit, Alabama. Like everyone's quick to say Nick Saban's fallen off or this, that, and the other. In your mind, is Bama still Bama right now?
Well, they're not the Bama of old. I mean, let's be clear. They're not the Bama that we put in the national championship picture every single year now. I mean, I think, last year you had so Bryce Young, is projected to be the number 1 pick. Will Anderson's projected to be a 5 pick or top 5 pick, top 10 pick. You had both those guys on your roster and you didn't win. You didn't win at a high level and didn't win good enough to even get in the college football playoffs. So I think we've got to take that into account. They're going to be younger at certain spots. I've just been interested to see Bama and their defense has fallen off the last several years from a dominant standpoint. When you look at their power run game and ability to just pound the football, and Tommy Rees, maybe he brings some of that over, but they've lost some of that ability too. So I think the invincibility of Bama is gone. The elite talent is still there. But with their team last year, there's no reason they shouldn't have been in the college football playoff. There's no reason they shouldn't have been number 1 most of the season, but they couldn't find a way to put it together. So I think Georgia's the new standard. Georgia's the new team that I look at and I go, they're a national championship contender. I think I look at Bama and I'm like, man, what are we going to get from Bama this year? I think they'll be good. I think they'll be really, really good. I think they'll be good enough to maybe win the SEC West, but will they be good enough to win a national title? I don't know. And I'm not going to go before the season and go like I did in the past. And I go, okay, 1/4 of the playoff is situated. It's Alabama. Okay. We used to start the season with like, all right, there's 3 spots available for everybody else. And now I just don't think that's the case.
And you said that during halftime of the national title game, and it was 100% true. I mean, they're up 38-7. Like, it's no discussion. Georgia now has taken over college football, and everybody made a big deal because Coach Saban's on the desk with you. Did he say anything after that with you? After the halftime?
No, he didn't say a word. Nick's a professional, and I didn't mean it any other way besides like advancing the conversation. And I know it got blown up with a million memes, and people put slow motion did and put music behind it. And I was just like, oh Lord, have mercy. He was fine. It's just like if I'm talking about Ohio State, I don't think about Kirk being an Ohio State guy. I mean, Nick was an analyst with us, so I talked about, I furthered the conversation that Georgia's kind of, they've taken a hold of college football and they're the new kings. And I think everybody else realizes that's true, but just saying it in front of Nick probably, struck people the wrong way or made it look a certain kind of way.
I mean, I listened to that and I was like, why are we being soft about this? Why is everyone making a big deal about it? He just said just a true fact. But anyway, I want to check in on that. Now, when it comes to preparing for college game day, y'all go over like a million games, it feels like. What's your process during the week getting ready for that 3-hour extravaganza?
Well, you watch as much as you can. You pay attention to as much as you can. You make football a priority. It's your job. And so that means recording games. That means watching games, which, by the way, is an awesome excuse on Saturdays with your wife. Like, sorry, got to pay attention, so I think it's a fun job, man. It's really, really cool. But you put in what you get out of it, whatever you're willing to put in and how much you want to watch. I'm not a big fan of taking other people's opinion on most subjects. I want to go see it. I want to feel it. I want to touch it. And so I can really come up with educated points that are mine and watch the tape and watch what people are doing great, talk about what somebody might not be talking about. And so I think it requires a lot. It requires a lot of travel. It requires a lot of time away from your family. It requires a lot of studying, but it's a blast, and it's so much fun to go to different cities and experience different cultures and stadiums and all that stuff. So we have a blast, man. We love doing it. We love putting it together, and it's been a fun ride for me being a part of it.
That was actually what I wanted to ask you. Last question before we get you out of here. What is? I don't want to narrow it down to just one, but what are maybe the Mount Rushmore for you in terms of college venues you've been to with game day?
Well, that's a tricky question because to me, the coolest ones are always the ones that are off the radar, off the beaten path. Like, I'll never forget the Washington State show. And people probably aren't going to go, wow, I remember that one, or why do you say that? But it was unbelievable. I mean, just the atmosphere, fireworks going off when the show came on. It's dark at 6 a.m. I'll never forget, James Madison. I'll never forget North Dakota State when they literally shut down the whole town and put us right in the middle of the city. Last year with App State, those are the ones I think that they really stand out. Like, going to New York City was different and strange and crazy. But the off the beaten path, I love the other schools too, but it's just fun to go to. Like, those places you go to that don't expect to ever get game day, man, they roll out the red carpet. They put on a show. The fans are like, thank you so much for coming. Some schools you go to, you don't get that. It's like, yeah, you should be here. That's us. That's how we roll. So those are the ones that always stick out as so cool and so fun. And the ones that as soon as I think about all the past shows, it comes flooding back pretty quickly.
Well, I think I speak for everyone when I say we're excited to have y'all back on the TV screen on Saturday mornings here sooner rather than later, but appreciate you making time and looking forward to connecting again soon.
No problem. Thank you, brother.
Thanks, David. Hey, really, man, thank you again for